She
For
said
me,
invite.
I'm
Okay.
recording now, guys, and I'm gonna let
Okay.
everybody else in. I tried to call Curtis, he didn't answer, but I don't want to just leave people in the waiting room, so I'll just kind of get us situated while we figure that out. Oh, there's Monday. Monday.
Oh, hold on. There we go. We all good.
Well, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Well, for some reason, my camera, it doesn't say that it says that it's off, but it's still blocking the video for some reason.
Oh, well, that's weird.
That's weird too, but it could be because I logged in as State Farm. You know, State Farm got some real tricky stuff. Um,
I got
but
it.
you
Okay. Well,
just you just
I'm
text me
going.
the link, right?
I did. Well, I text you. You have to register. So I text you. I did email the link because
Okay.
I can't text it to you. So,
Okay.
but I think I emailed it to you. But I'm gonna let other folks in. So I'll leave
Sure.
them in the waiting room after 12:03 and just kind of welcome folks, and then you let me know what you need.
Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Dearborn Realtist Board. We're kind of doing a pop-up here today because I know that we have all been impacted in one way or another. If it hasn't been us, it's been someone that we know, maybe somebody that cares. So I'm super grateful to have you guys join this live Zoom with two of my insurance faves and just people in the world that I really appreciate. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I know we're getting started just a couple minutes past 12 o'clock, but I just want to say thank you so very much for being here today. And so, for those of you that don't know, my name is Cecilia Marlowe. I am the president of the Dearborn Realtist Board. I see some of our additional leaders in the room. Madam Cheryl Carter, I see Madam Tara Flowers, I see Madam Candy Thomas, our past president, immediately, Madam Sanina Ellison Jones. And so thank you all for being here. Um, we
Morning and
are, let's see, I think Mr. Monday might be navigating um, technology right now. So of course, the storms are making it real nice for us to be able to do all this great stuff via Zoom. But Monday, you let me know when you're ready. And I still see people coming in, so I'm going to let them come in the room as well.
Well,
well,
let's
let's
go
go.
ahead and get started. Even
Okay.
though my video's not working, I want to be able to at least be respectful of everyone's time. So if we get the video working, that's great. I'm not much to look at anyway, but the words I have to say out of my mouth probably would be more impactful. So
I love it. I love it. Well, so thank you all so much. Again, we have special guests here today. Curtis Monday, who I have known for it feels like all of my life. We go way, way back, and I always appreciate his expertise when it comes to homeowners insurance, auto insurance, just really everything insurance related, life insurance. And he has always been extremely responsive and so I'm just grateful that he is able to join us today as we talk about what's happening in the world. And then we also have my other fave here, Miss Gwendolyn Shaw of Country Financial. Thank you so much, Gwen. Gwen has always been available, accessible. Turnaround is very quick and also a wealth of knowledge. And so I thank both of you all for being here today. I'll let you all tell our audience today a little bit more about you before we jump into, this important conversation. And so today's conversation is really, really focused on as realtors, we are advocates in our community. And what that means is that we are the front lines for not only the professionals that we serve, but we're also consumer facing. So I know that as realtors, we are probably getting questions as it relates to, the storms and what people are navigating right now. And so, because I don't have all those answers, I got my two friends here and close colleagues that are going to help us to navigate how we can best advise our clients, our family members, our friends, our community. Because I have to believe that Curtis and Gwen, your phones have been blowing up over the last 30 days as it relates to what we've been seeing in this in Illinois area. So I'm going to first allow you all to introduce yourselves, and then we're going to jump right into the conversation. So Curtis Monday, State Farm, I'm going to let you take it away.
Sure. Thank you very much. My name is Curtis Armonde. I'm the owner of the Curtis Armonde State Farm Insurance Agency on 17537 South Kedzie in Hazel Crest, Illinois. I've been a State Farm agent since March of 2001. I'm a real estate investor, so I kind of know both sides of it, and I'm glad to be here with the great Cecilia Marlowe.
Thank you so very much, Madam Gwen.
And hello. Hey, Curtis. My name is Gwen Shaw. I am a financial advisor with Country Financial. I have an office in the heart of Chatham at 820 East 87th Street, right across the street from Fatburger. Been in the business for 18 years with Country, almost 18 years with Country, but been a financial advisor for almost 20 years. So real happy to be here. Loving this moment in terms of what we're doing for the people in our community, and look forward to a really a great event.
So thank you so very much. So just some housekeeping. If you could mute yourself, if you are not a panelist, that would be awesome. But if you have questions as we are moving through the dialogue and the conversation today, please be sure to put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat. Madam Cheryl, if you could also help monitor the chat, that'd be awesome. So here is where we are today. I have an aunt that works for ComEd, very specifically with the South Suburban Villages. And there was an interesting statistic that was quoted that we have had over 60 major storms in Illinois this year. What we know is that that is not our norm. And it is both physically, psychologically, and emotionally draining to see this continuing to happen. And I think the first place that we go is we look and we see that there is damage, and we're like, let me call my insurance agent. And so I want both of you, Curtis and Gwen, to chime in and just kind of give us some things to think about as we begin to process, what is happening, or what actions we should be taking as it relates to I woke up and it's a mess outside. And I'm going to start with, I'm going to ask Gwen if we could start with her.
In terms of what to do first?
Yep.
Okay. That changes things for me a little bit. Sorry.
No. Let's bounce to Curtis. I'm sorry.
I mean, if you don't mind, because I wrote everything out based upon me following him.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
it's okay. And you're right, Cece. My phone has been ringing off the hook the last 2 weeks. I'm in Hazel Crest, so we got actually hit by an actual tornado. Hazel Crest, Homewood, Flossmoor, it's been crazy. My first advice would be that even before the storm hits, the most important decision you can make is about the insurance carrier you choose. So many people in our community, we choose insurance. We look at it as a commodity. So we're making it a decision based on price and price alone. And if you buy on price, you're going to lose on price. My advice to you and to all your clients is look at a company's claim paying ability, because the most important thing about an insurance contract is that company's promise to be there for you when life throws you an unexpected curveball. So the first thing you need to do is to make sure that you broaden your scope of criteria in respect to choosing an insurance company, because now, as you can see with all the damage around us, you don't want to have to be questioning about, the red tapes and little things you didn't know about the policy initially. So at the point of, and I saw the agenda, we'll get into best practices, but at the point of a crisis, you just want to breathe. You want to breathe. It's a highly emotional situation. You haven't been through this before. The damage can be unprecedented. You want to breathe. The next call you want to make is to your insurance agent. And with that in mind, what they probably should tell you is to not to make any repairs that aren't necessary to stop the damage from getting worse. If you make a full repair before the claim area gets out there, they can't fully assess what's wrong. But there are some instances where you need to take some steps to make the problem not get better, not to get worse. Like if there's flood and water coming in. So, you take a lot of photos, you take diligent notes, but then you also definitively, first call you're going to make it to your insurance professional, and he or she will be able to guide you through the process. So I don't want to take everything from Gwen. So Gwen, go ahead and jump on in.
Oh no, you weren't taking it. Thanks, Curtis. I think a real good thing to do. One of the things I tell my clients, initially is get those before pictures. Had a client yesterday to send me, the before and after pictures, and I thought that was just great because, trying to explain things or trying to, see things as they used to be, once it's been destroyed, can be can be kind of confusing. You might not have as vivid a memory, but if you've already taken pictures of your home, like we've all done it, we go on vacation and we have a big suite, and one of the first things we do is capture, video of our view and everything. Have that same energy when you get your home and get into that home and start taking photos, videos, room by room inventory. I've unfortunately have experienced not just the trees and falling on the home and things like that, but I've actually been burglarized. So one of the hardest things to do was to remember all of those different things. And had I, been known back then what I know now, I'm telling you to go by room and take inventory of what you have, call logs, claim numbers, adjuster appointments. Here's one important thing I really share with my clients too. I don't know if you do this, Curtis, or not, but when a disaster hits, whether it's a fire or a storm, I want them to call me first. The reason why I want them to call me first, other than the fire department, if the house is on fire, or if you need something immediate, like if somebody come pulls trees off of you, something. But call me. I want to be there to help you simply because I know what happens during those storms. Everybody's showing up on your doorstep. Everybody's trying to get you to sign this, to make quick decisions when you just had one of the most devastating things to occur to you and your family. I want to be that person and that voice for you, or that voice of calm to help guide you. So after taking your inventory and after when you have that situation, call your agent and bring them in on board with that situation.
Yeah, that inventory advice is critical because once you have a claim, you can't, it's very difficult, depending upon the damage of the property, it's very difficult to recall what was lost. I actually was a victim of a fire. My house caught on fire the day before I graduated from high school. And I can tell you that one of the things that happened, we had to kind of, give a catalog or a inventory of all the things were lost. And I still think I didn't get my money for them Carl Canai jeans that I know I lost in the fire. I'm telling my age right now with the crocodile thing, but I know, it's very difficult. So that video with the smartphone is a big thing. It kind of helps. It kind of helps with the claim process in totality. Um, I would also say that to Gwen's point, we have a lot of this in our community. We have, just like you have ambulance chasers on the auto side, you have storm chasers on the homeowner side. And they'll come in your neighborhood and they'll go, hey, you know what, Cecilia, I just, did a new roof for your neighbor Gwen, and I can see that your roof has damages too. And then you'll listen and you'll think that, hey, well, Gwen got a brand new roof, then I deserve a brand new roof. And then you'll sign over papers. And this papers basically gives this third party the autonomy and the authorization to act on your behalf with your insurance company. And effectively, what it does is it inflates the cost of the claim. And you may very well get your property repaired, but it does a lot of irreparable harm to you in terms of your insurance history down the road. And what tends to happen is that you're not renewed. So you want to be careful. I echo her sentiment. Call your insurance agent first before you sign anything, pull any gauges or switches so they can give you the proper guidance.
Do the storm chasers generally have access or know like who your potential insurance company is? Like, will they use that as bait, or
They
they
don't know
just
that information until you share it to share with them, and that happens a lot because people actually don't know. I've had the storm chasers actually file claims. They can't do that now. They used to be able to actually file claims on behalf of the client, and a lot of these people don't even know. And then I've had it happen to me. I'm sure you've had it happen to you, Curtis, too. I mean, literally, the storm, the rain, the last drop fell, and somebody's in my driveway, because my roof, I do need a new roof, sorry. And, well, you need a new roof, and the storm, blah, blah, blah. And they're telling me all this. And,
Um,
you know, it, it there, and I should say mention this too. In certain municipalities in the south suburbs too, they do have an ordinance out there where there's a certain period where you can be contacted, and those storm chasers that's showing up on your doorstep, they're in violation in a lot of those municipalities. So be careful. Call your agent. I just can't stress that enough. Call your agent and let them be your guide. Curtis and I represent some very, very good insurance companies. We've been doing this for years and years and years. We are your best guide. But I tell you one more important thing. Don't let the storm be the reason to talk to your agent. You should talk to your agent before the storm comes, okay? Because money has to come from somewhere in your financial life. And having that money and being prepared for it is the most important thing you can do.
Yeah. Cecilia, I would tell you probably one of the hardest conversations that I'm having now with my policyholders is telling them that in some respects they don't have coverage for certain things. One of the most prominent examples of that would be, people getting like we call it backup and sewer and drain in our world. Like if the sump pump fails or they get water backing up from the drainage system in the basement, losses occurring because of that inherently in most policies is not part of the basic policy. You have to be very deliberate about adding an endorsement on to get coverage. And so I mean, if I got 30 claims right now, at least 12 of them are situations where they got water in the basement, and I'm telling them that it's declined. Now that sounds like a crappy deal. But to Gwen's point, the dialogue with your insurance agent shouldn't just happen at the point that when you actually need the policy. It should happen at inception and at least once a year from there on after. And I would urge you, and this might be my own bias, but your insurance agent should take just as much professional priority as your accountant, as your attorney, maybe even your physician in some levels. And unfortunately, we don't. And so, because we don't have that dialogue, or we call you in for an appointment to talk about different things, I think human nature is to think we're trying to upsell you or get more money out of you, when in fact we're trying to do our due diligence to make sure that you're comprehensively covered. And if we have a conversation, we find a gap. If you don't take it, if you don't do anything about it, that's your prerogative. You can do that, but at least we can walk away knowing that we did our job as a professional. We had some conversation, and maybe out those 12 claims that I'm faced with right now, all of them could have been avoided had we had our annual reviews that most times the clients just unfortunately don't make time for. But at this point, it's nothing we can do at this point. It's about how we can go forward.
Absolutely. And I saw a hand raised, so if you could put your question in the chat, that would be awesome. That way I can make sure that we get to it. And if it is a lengthy question, let me know it's a lengthy question in the chat. And I want to be able to make sure that we're addressing the questions as they come up, given the dialogue. So I see Sharice. I'm going to just unmute you, Sharice, and allow you to ask the question.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you for this moment. So I did put my question in the chat as well, but thank you for allowing me to say it because it can be just so there's a better understood. So I'm in Flossmoor, and so I was affected by the tornado on Tuesday. I had a large tree on my roof, and I did call my insurance company. My insurance company went to State Farm first to make sure that any removal, like what I need to do, this is my situation. They advised me that any tree removal would be covered by my insurance. And so, but the other part is this. So when you mentioned the storm chaser, so we were inundated with storm chasers the whole day. And so our neighbor recommended his tree guy to us to remove the tree from our roof, and our backyard was in total disarray of trees down everywhere. I just want to, so I did contact the insurance agent, which I feel like is what you all said do, but then I did hire a tree person to remove my tree. Was that correct? Did I do the right thing?
That's not major. To Gwen's point, the tree falling down is something you can take before and after pictures
Yes.
to substantiate it. Ideally, depending upon the nature of the damages, I like to tell my clients don't touch anything. but that's dependent on the nature of the damages. My neighbor next door right now has a tree that fell, and it's like literally like almost not quite. It didn't break through the front window, but it's in his front lawn, and he hasn't touched it. And the only reason why he hasn't touched it, he wants his insurance company to see the damages, to come
Oh,
up with their estimate, to make sure there's no, there's no discrepancy. Because I've seen it before. Where we will, we'll think that we're doing the right thing by making repairs, and then we'll
mm-hmm.
call the insurance company in, and then they'll say, well, you've already repaired it. I don't have any way to really assess the true nature of the damages. So I would say in that scenario, what you did was appropriate. But you really want to use your agent and their
Okay.
appropriate claims area to help you navigate that.
Exactly.
Well, I will say this. So the representative from the tree company says he bills the insurance company directly. Is that, but I know you mentioned they don't do that anymore. I don't know. That's just, so he didn't bill us. He didn't even give us a estimate. He said he works with the insurance company directly. Is that standard?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it's standard in the way that they operate, but not standard in the way that insurance companies operate. And no one's going to
Mm,
show up as your insurance provider is going to show up immediately like that and be able to directly bill your insurance company without your permission. So that's
okay.
one of those people that Curtis and I was talking about that show up, and they're part of the storm chaser, and they will convince you and make you believe that they actually do work for your insurance company. And I'm not saying, I'm not here to bash the storm chaser or anything, but I'm just telling you that you pay your premium every single month. You have a
Hmm.
relationship with your insurance agent. Those are people that you want to contact first. What you did,
Okay.
I'm not saying it was the wrong thing to do. Getting the tree off the house immediately. You're not. There are situations where, like when I was telling you about my client with the damage, her chimney was exposed. The top of it came off. So you want to do things to prevent further damage. So those are the kind of decisions that you and your insurance agent the discussions your agent will have. But having someone directly bill another third party directly bill your insurance company, I can't speak to that clearly. I mean, that's not likely to happen without your
Okay.
Yeah.
permission, unless you
I,
gave them your policy,
Well,
your
well, I
policy
did. I
information.
did all of that. You all. Now I'm afraid that was the wrong thing to do. I don't know.
I mean, Cerise, you learn, and so this is why we're
Yes.
having this is why we're having the dialogue. See, what's a red flag to me in terms of what you just described is that you didn't even see the estimate,
Exactly.
right? Remember, in my explanation, I said that they
Mm,
tend to inflate the cost of like it's like they build in their premium, right? So
okay.
whatever amount the tree was, I'm pretty sure that it was above the market value to do certain things, which has an impact on you because look, on average a person files a homeowners related claim in our world once every 7 to 11 years on average, right?
Okay.
And every claim that you file tends to be higher in cost or more severe than the previous one. So anytime that you have a claim anytime that you have a claim and the frequency is more than what the norm is, and it's severe, puts you on the red flag to be non-renewed. Right
Mm,
now, with homeowners insurance, as Gwen can probably attest, is a very unprofitable line of business, right? And you have markets like California where you can't get people can't get normal insurance through California through a lot of regulatory changes, but they go through their version of the fair plan. You got Florida, right? They are hit by hurricanes and things of that nature, so their market is a little bit differently. So by default, the central part of the country becomes like the number one claim filing corridor. And CC kind of said this earlier, but I think last year we had a total of 149 tornadoes all year. Right now we're like at 191 year to date. Right now,
Yep.
right now. And so what I'm saying is that insurance companies are losing a lot of money in the homeowners market. For every dollar worth of premium they're bringing in, some companies are paying out $1.15, $1.16. You give us a buck, we're paying you out $1.16 back. That translates into two, three, four, $5 billion underwriting loss. So I'm saying all this to say is that companies are being a lot more stringent about requirements, prices are going up, and they're being very sensitive. You got to be very strategic about when you file a claim and what types of claims that you actually, put out there. I tell people, look at it like bullets in a gun. You got a certain number of shots. You want to make every shot count. And if there's something you can handle out of pocket, do that. But use your insurance, in my opinion,
The
for the bigger
catastrophic.
things. There you go, Gwen, the catastrophic things.
Catastrophic. Yep.
Yep.
And that's the only word I use, Curtis, is catastrophic. And having, and we're not being critical of you, but again, you have to be careful who you speak to when it comes to those type of losses. And again, it's so many people that show up. And I know it's very difficult and you want to get things done very quickly. But did you say you called your agent and had a conversation with them? I didn't hear you say that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
I did that first because I
Okay.
wanted to confirm about if this would be covered in our insurance, like if the cost of the tree removal. And they did say, yes, you can, this will be covered. Make sure you're taking pictures. I did all that. I tried to do exactly what they told us. And then when the tree guy came, he said, oh, we build insurance directly. What's your policy? What's your claim number? I gave him all of that. And yeah, so I don't know if I did.
I
Yeah.
would call State Farm right away and find out, what
Okay.
information has already been. That's what I would do and speak to your
Okay.
agent about that. Okay.
We'll do. We'll do. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Sharice, for sharing. I know this is a very personal type of conversation that we're having, and so that each of us get the benefit of, the expertise of our guests. So thank you for sharing your scenario and your current situation, such that you can get the guidance that our pros got for us today. So, one of the things that I hear you all talking about right now is building that damage record. There anything specifically outside of the pictures that we should be mindful of as we're putting together what sounds like a file for you all?
Pictures help. Receipts can help. Um, Pictures, receipts. What else? What am I missing, Gwen? Uh,
Um, Logging conversations that you've had with people. Um,
yeah,
I would say, make sure you have, keep some of the stuff the data that you're collecting too. I mean, you're not going to be able to keep it in the house. Like I'm thinking about before and after a storm or any type of damage happens, is to make sure that you have things stored elsewhere or that you can capture that information without having to go into your home because it may be destroyed in the home. So storing your electronics and significant belongings and things like that, having videos of that is good, but storing a copy of where you can access it if your phone or your computer becomes damaged. So
yeah. That's not a natural thing to do. If I'm being honest
it's,
with you,
it's not.
like,
It's not.
it's not a natural thing to do to take a video of your house, room by room, and you just don't know. That's not a normal thing that we do. But I can tell you, and Gwen can probably attest to this. During a claim situation, you're trying to really, really try to recall a lot. It's almost impossible to recall. If you live somewhere, think about it. If you live somewhere for 15 years, you got 15 years worth of stuff, right? Can you legitimately recall what you've lost in every single room? Like, no. And that's part of the claims process, what they'll be asking for you to actually do. So
I hear you saying we need to after this call today, go and do some video and some photos of the condition of our homes now, if possible, before a catastrophic event, knock on wood, God forbid, were to happen. Those are things that we should probably be sharing that information with our clients as well.
yeah. And to what I guess what Gwen and I were saying, in addition to that, if you don't already have this as a consistent part of your regimen, you need to have ongoing dialogue with your insurance professional. At least commit to once a year. Or I call it life event changes. A life event change is when something happens in your life, you should stop and pause and ask, how does it impact my insurance? You buy a new house, stop. That's an obvious one. But you get married, you have a kid, you start a business, like, you make some renovations to your home. Like stop and pause and ask the question, how does this impact my insurance? But at a very minimum, a 1 year commitment that you meet with your insurance professional daily. I mean, at least once a year. And a good test. If your professional isn't reaching out to you to try to initiate those things, you need to switch up. that's a tell-all sign of what kind of quality professional you're dealing with. You need to switch up. Or if they're not responsive or to your request, you need to switch up. You need to have that dialogue because he or she will help you flush those things out. We'll go line by line and point out what you have and ask follow-up questions about, well, do you have this? Do you have this? I had a client, she I don't know if you guys still know this or not, but the home shopping network, you know, the thing on TV, you can go. Well, she was a fanatic. She needed like help with that because she would always be shopping on the home shopping network. And she had a lot of like jewelry from the home shopping network. Lived in a condo in Bronzeville. Somebody broke in, and she probably easily had like 60 grand worth of jewelry she had accumulated over the years on the home shopping network, and they took all that. Why? Because they taking things they can grab real fast and leave out. And she called me and said, "Do I have any coverage?" No. It's $1,500 tops, you know, for per item not to exceed 2,500 that comes with the basic policy, but not nearly enough to cover your true exposure. And that would have been flushed out through that dialogue I just mentioned.
And that is a great segue into the next part of understanding what we really have in our policy. I think, and I'm just going to be transparent here. I know that when I get insurance, I say, how much do I need? What's the deductible? But I do think that this is an opportunity for us to educate ourselves about, you know, what are some of the basic things that we may not think about that we need, and like, how do we figure out what we actually are, what we do have coverage under? Like, can you walk us through that?
Me, I can.
Yes.
So, you know, if you go to social media, and I frequent it, as some of you guys may know, I think one of the hottest topics now is about, you know, the insurance companies. Is not all good either, because you rarely go to any type of social media or online and hear good things about insurance companies. You hear a lot of complaints. And I'll just speak plainly, you know, the way I speak to people. I do a lot of home buyers classes, and I just tell them, you guys, we research cars, you know, everything from where it has heated seats and air conditioning coming through the seats, and, you know, what type of windows we have, you know, power cameras. But we don't take all that time. We take that time for cars. We don't take all that time for insurance. So often, and I know this is another part of of our segment, is that we rush into that process. Insurance is like the last thing. When I do home buyers classes, I'm like always the last person to speak. I don't know about you, Curtis, but I'm always the last person to speak. And I think that that's because that's how the process is in most of the people's heads in our real estate community, is that that's kind of how the steps go. Whereas I think that the insurance should be the initial discussion. So you'll understand your deductibles and how deductibles work, how you can understand how there are exclusions. I have jewelry, you know, is my jewelry covered to the full value of it? Most people don't know what they have until they have a loss. Okay. And then they're scrambling and trying to figure out, well, why did I know this? And then they go to social media, and I'm not bashing social media because I love it, but that's when a lot of that is like my when I used to have computer problems, my daughter would say, is it a computer issue or is it a you issue? You know, and a lot of the issues that we have are us issues, and we're not doing our homework. We're not sitting down, like Curtis is saying, with your agent at least on once a year. But I would encourage you, and I know definitely any of you that have claims and have had claims from these prior storms, the next conversation, next sitting down, you should be having is with your agent and discussing any gaps that you may have had, or any misconceptions or things missed that you thought about policies, because there's so many of them. There's so many insurance experts online. There's so many other people, your family members, your friends, or whatever. The person you should be talking to is the person that you give the money to. That's your insurance agent. So you'll know it's not just a deductible. It's, do I have, you know, like the young lady that just asked the question. Some insurance companies will not pay for the removal of the tree, but will pay to move it off of your property. If it's sitting on your property, or some of them won't pay for it to be moved off your property, you'll have to move it out to the street, or so to speak. But they have limitations, is my point, is what I'm trying to say. You need to know those limitations, which is why having that sit down with your agent, even before you sign on the dotted line, you know, you interview the insurance company, you interview your agent, and then you ask questions. I give people questions. I'm sure Curtis does the same thing. They give them questions of what you can ask these, because every agent is not the same. And that's another issue and another conversation. Some people are more involved in the process, like Curtis and I are, and some people are just, you know, just agents. They come and go. But the serious agents like ourselves, we are the ones that are making sure that you guys are fully protected. So when a client tells me, I don't need all that insurance, I'm like, how do you know? You know, how do you know what you need? And that's my job, Curtis's job, to tell you exactly what you need. So you get upgrades on your property, that should be a time that you call your agent. You just renovated your kitchen, call your agent. These are things, you get a new roof, call your agent. That increases the value of your home. And you want to be, I don't know about you, but I want to be insured for the full value of my home and for things that are outside of it and the things that are inside of it. But you can only know that if you know what you're covered for. And the time to discover that is not when you're filing a claim.
Great point. So, insurance, homeowners insurance 101 from a high level, some of the hot topics. First thing is your dwelling amount. The dwelling amount is how much your home is insured for. Dwelling amount, ladies and gentlemen, is not synonymous with value. Sometimes, I'll come up with we need to insure your home for $400,000. Oh, my home is only worth 250. Insurance companies don't insure value. If your home burns down to the ground, we're not replacing your home based upon the value or what the market calls for. We're using an amount that's indicative of what we think it'll cost in today's dollars to go towards replacing your property from the ground up. If that's more or less than your value, that's immaterial to us. So your dwelling is not synonymous with your value. We're not insuring the value of it. Also, there's something called replacement cost coverage versus actual cash value. In simplistic terms, replacement cost value is where you want to be. We're going to give you what it costs in today's dollars to get you back to where you were before the loss happened, versus reducing or taking off costs for a depreciated value, right? It's like the equivalent of buying a TV. You bought a TV 5 years ago for $100. Replacement cost coverage says we're going to give you $100 to get you a comparable TV. Depreciation says you bought that TV 5 years ago for $100. You bought it 5 years ago, so we're going to take off $25 off that. So instead of giving you $100, we're going to give you 75, etc. You don't want that. Your personal property coverage is another hot button. Typically, your personal property is going to be a percentage of your dwelling, depending upon the policy and the company. It could be, I've seen it anywhere between 50% of the dwelling up to 75% of the dwelling, but it's calculated based upon the dwelling amount. Covers things like your clothing, appliances, furniture, electronics. But if you got things like jewelry, furs, antiques, collectibles, golf club, a prosthetic limb, a nice set of something that's hard to value, right? Then you want to itemize those things, put it on a separate rider. In our world, we call it a personal articles policy. Gwen probably has something comparable, but it's a separate rider to give those items better coverage than what the homeowner's policy can provide. Next hot topic would be your liability. Most policies come at least $100,000 worth of liability. That protects you in the event of you sue for some kind of negligence. Your home burns down, you burn down the neighbor's house too, they sue you for negligence. You got a dog gets out, bites somebody, they sue you for negligence. So you got $100,000. You want to have at least $500,000, and I tell my clients. And if you have clients who have properties, investment properties, they're real estate investor like myself, they have high assets, then I'm going to talk to them about an umbrella. I'm going to give them additional $1 million worth of liability above and beyond what's on their home to cover their assets in the event of a lawsuit. The other two, and then I'll stop, would be deductibles. The world of flat deductibles are gone. Or it's pretty hard to find a company with the $500 deductible days are gone. We don't do that no more, right? Because when you had a $500 deductible, people will file claims for $750 losses, $1,000 losses. It drives up the cost of the policy. So now deductibles tend to be a percentage of your dwelling. Most times 1%. So we insure your home for $500,000. You got a 1% deductible. That's $5,000. It's intended to work like a major medical health insurance policy. Your major medical health insurance policy is not intended for the smaller physicals. It's intended for the catastrophic surgeries, like Gwen's. That word catastrophic that Gwen used. That's how deductibles of homeowners insurance are set up and trending. 0.5%, 2% of your actual dwelling, right? So those are things you want to kind of keep in mind. And then the only other thing that I would add, and I get this asked a lot. Why does my homeowner's insurance premium go up a lot? Why does it go up every year? I haven't filed a claim. What's going on? Two reasons why. Okay, one, there are only three things that can happen with your homeowner's insurance coverage. The premium. The rate can stay the same. That rarely ever happens. The rate can go down. That only happens if the insurance company explicitly reduces the rates. The third thing always happens typically, that your rate goes up. Now, outside of an insurance company raising our rates, you have a cost of inflation index right on your policy. So as the cost of living goes up, your dwelling paces up each year with the rate of inflation. It's intended to make sure that you're never underinsured, right? So you can have your home insured for $100,000 one year, and then the next year your home is insured for $115,000, right? So outside of going to Costco, I can't think of nothing else you can get more and pay less, right? So even if we don't raise our rates, your homeowner's insurance rate is intended. It's going to the policy is set up to go up in cost every year. Most times you don't notice it because it's nominal, especially if it's paid through your mortgage and your escrow account. You rarely ever notice it. But in rare instances where, like right now with what we're all experiencing, the increases are more dramatic, $200, $300, $400 more because the cost of everything we're promising to insure is going up. If you got an in-ground swimming pool built in your home pre-COVID, that might have cost $30,000. Post-COVID, that same in-ground swimming pool may be 65K. Steel, concrete, materials are all going up. So the claims are more severe in cost, which impacts your homeowner's insurance. So that was a quick brain dump. Now you experts. You can go all over the country now and talk about homeowners
Good
insurance.
point. And you know, one
I
coverage.
appreciate that too, though. And I'm sorry, Gwen, to jump
No
in.
problem. No
No,
problem.
because I think that, even as professionals and as realtors, we understand that insurance is going up, but I appreciate what you just said there because I think we better prepare our clients that taxes are going to go up, right? We know real estate taxes are going to go up, but we don't always prepare them that insurance is also going to increase. Cost of living index, I like that. So go ahead, Gwen.
Yeah, because they, just like Curtis said, they don't really understand what are the factors that contribute to the cost of insurance. So, and he just laid it out there, and that's why you've seen. And sometimes you see fluctuations. Sometimes materials prices have gone down. I've seen that, a few years too. But for the most part, some of the things that are happening now with, some of the political things are causing the prices to go up. So, one little something on your coverage that really comes to a lot of my clients use when they get in a situation like this with storms or fire. And that's not, it's something that comes with your policy, and it's called additional living expenses with us. It could also be called loss of use, or I'm not sure what State Farm calls it, but they have the same thing too. That is a critical coverage to have. Uh, for one, it could provide you with some immediate relief if you become displaced from your home. And that could be, either temporary or long term, depending on the extent of damages to your home. With fires, it typically could be anywhere from 6 months to a year, more likely a year, that you're going to be displaced from your home. So that additional living expenses is already factored. It's already comes with your policy. You can increase it if you want to, but it's already in your policy. The policy that is not in is the one that if you ever let your policies lapse with your insurance company, which I strongly encourage you never to do, that coverage is not included. Matter of fact, there's a whole lot of things that are not included with that policy. Pretty much it's only to make sure that that home can be rebuilt the way that it was before. And that's an insurance that your mortgage company makes sure that you have. And that's a forced place policy. And it's also significantly more expensive usually than the policy that you had in place in the first place. So please don't let that one, your policies lapse, because additional living expenses can pay for the living for a year or longer. It can give you emergency money. It can provide for the little expenses that may not you be able to come out of your personal property, but it's a life-saving coverage. So do not let your policies lapse for that very reason.
Yeah.
I love that. We got a few questions in the chat, so I want to jump over to that so that I can make sure that our professionals, our realtors, get their questions answered today. So I'm going to go to the first one, and then Natalie, if you need to come off mute, let me know. She said that during the winter, she had a property and the gas was turned off without her knowledge. The temperature went below zero for an extended period of time, and the pipes burst, and there was extensive damage. Once she discovered that it happened, she contacted the insurance company. After they sent out a claims adjuster, it was determined that the coverage did not include acts of God. Can you all explain an act of God?
The gas being off, I'm sorry, can I be blunt? It's not an act of God. Typically, they give you anywhere from 60 to 90 days where the house cannot. First of all, you have to have the heat at a certain temperature, which I don't know what it is for per state or whatever. What is it, 60 degrees, 65 degrees, something like that? Curtis might know this better than I. And if that home is not maintained in that temperature, then you have a loss like that, they can deny that claim for that very reason. Or if it becomes uninhabitable for 60 plus days, they can deny any claims in a vacant property if you're not disclosed it and the property is vacant. It's a lot of little things like that. So the gas situation, they're expecting for rental properties, and I know it's hard for you guys to get insurance these days, but they're expecting, hopefully, remember this, the risk is all on the insurance company, and they're looking at you in terms of your level of risk. If you have a loss and the furnace is off for a lengthy period of time, then they're wondering, as a homeowner or as a owner, are you taking care of that property? So that's a huge red flag.
Yeah, like you can define like acts of gods as just something that's out of your control, right? Here's a very, very relatable example in the here and now that it hit home. CC and I live right next door to each other. I have a tree on my property. Storm happens, the tree on my property falls and hits CC's house. Who pays for that? And the answer is it depends. And it depends on the nature of the tree. If the tree was dying and decaying and the storm happened and it fell on CC's house, then I'm negligent because I should have gotten rid of or taken care of a decaying tree. But if the tree is healthy and flourishing, a storm happening and falling on CC's house is an act of God. You can't fault me for that because it's an act of God. The tree was healthy, it was flourishing, and it only fell because God saw fit to have a storm. So those things that you can't point to the human involvement in a scenario typically is a good way to gauge if it's an act of God or is it negligence on your part or something on a human element.
Very well
That's a
put.
good point because there is a question in the chat, and I'm going to come back to you, Natalie. But that specifically spoke to what happens when there's damage that to your property that was caused by a neighbor's property, like their tree. So how would you? So then that goes back to taking the pictures, I think, in terms of knowing if it was already decayed, rotted, da 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 da. Right. So if it was an act of God, what I hear you saying is no, there's no recourse for that. But if the tree was old and should have been removed, then at that point I can go after that person's insurance.
Yeah, like again, you can't really blame the person for. I had a neighbor that used to get pissed at me because it was a big tree on my property and the limbs were like kind of protruding over in her yard, and she was very concerned that if a storm happens, the limb was gonna fall on the house, and she wanted me to pay for it, and I wouldn't pay for it. It cost too much. I didn't have that much money in my Crown Royal bag. See, it cost too much. So I negotiated. I said we can go half on the cost, but she got really pissed. But and the insurance agent in me was kind of being a stickler because I knew I wasn't necessarily negligent in this manner. If anything happened, I knew it wouldn't really fall on me. So in that scenario, if the tree is on my property and it's healthy, and a storm happens and it falls on Cecilia's home and causes damages, you can't really fault me for that. In that scenario, Cecilia's homeowner's policy would take precedence and be what will be used to be able to make the necessary repairs.
Thank you. Natalie, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Oh, what I wanted to share was in the scenario I mentioned, the gas was turned on immediately. And by the time the insurance company got involved, there was warmth in the house, there was gas, and there was no mention of the fact that it had been turned off. I was just told that because it was an older policy, had owned the property for over 30 years and had not included some new provision to cover an act of God, it wasn't covered. And I took it for whatever they told me, but I just really want to understand that.
So this is
How
we're
long was the
going
gas
back to
off
the
for?
pipes bursting. We're going
Right.
back
Yeah,
to
but how long was it off? The gas off? Did you say?
It was off for an extended period of time. I think it was like 4 days or something like that.
Okay.
But then it was turned back on, and that's when when I discovered it, I turned it back on, and
Gotcha.
then I notified the insurance company. I never mentioned to them that it was off. Or do they just know that?
They know that by the action that happened, by the damage that happened, the pipes bursting is usually when there's not enough heat to support the, the warmth around the plumbing.
Okay.
Maybe something we can talk about offline though.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for that. And now I see Sanina. Madam Sanina, your hand's up.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam President. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I wanted to go back to the tree, because that was my question. It sounds like there's a lot of stuff that we're supposed to know that we just don't around this insurance component. And what I heard and what I think I'm understanding is if the tree is decaying or old, right? So how do you know that? I don't know if my neighbor's tree is decaying or old. I just moved into this home. There's a tree next door that I'm assuming has no impact, that should have no impact on me. And then here it is in my yard. Here it is on my fence. Here it is on my roof. So the question that I was trying to understand is, in that instance, I think the natural thought process is to call your insurance. And I guess my question is the responsible party your insurance or their insurance? Because, you don't know if their tree is decaying or old or any of that. You don't know any of that information. All you know is it's over there and now it's over here. And how do I address that?
A good question. By no stretch of the imagination am I a tree expert, but I will tell you one tell-all sign is if the tree has leaves. If the tree has, if it's the summertime, Sanina, and the tree has bright green leaves, right? Then it's alive. But that same example, if the tree is barren, no leaves, nothing flourishing, in a time where summer or springtime where every other tree is green, then that tells you that the tree is dead. And when the tree falls, unless someone, picks it up or cut, and comes, it's going to be there. So it's easily to be able to identify from that perspective, if the tree is dying or dead versus being alive. And if the tree is alive, if I'm your neighbor and the tree is alive and it falls on your property, then the responsibility in respect to the cost to handle those damages falls on you, either out of pocket or your insurance policy. Insurance sometimes has crummy deals. Like on the auto side, it could be the same thing. Like if Gwen is driving and I hit Gwen and I peel off and I don't have any insurance, and Gwen is like, why do I got to file a claim on my policy? Like, why am I having to deal with this? I didn't ask to get my car ran into. It's the same kind of, it's kind of similar. That person who is on the receiving end of the tree falling probably feels like, hey, that wasn't my fault. why why do I have to bear the responsibility of it? And it's again by that definition, an act of God. So if
Right.
it's negligence, you handle it. If it's act of God, then it's going to go the other way.
Right. And I think a lot of people having a tree discussion too.
Yep.
And it's just like the fire, that if a fire in my house and it jumps to your house, I didn't start the fire. If I didn't start the fire, I'm not liable for the damages to your house. I tell my clients, everybody should have homeowners insurance to cover their own home in the event that something happens, whether you cause it or somebody else causes it. So the same thing with the car example, whether somebody else runs into you or, you do it yourself. So I know the tree situation is really touchy. I bet it's been a lot of neighbors having arguments about it, but Curtis is absolutely right. And it happened to me. I had a dead tree I just got the house, okay? Just moved in. And in that summer, the tree fell and knocked over my neighbor's new fence. And yeah, I took care of it for him because that's the right thing to do. But in the case, like he said, if that tree looks healthy, and it's you didn't go over there and push it over. And that's the key thing. It's not your fault. It's an act of God.
Right.
No, I appreciate the response because as I'm driving through the South suburb, that's the predominance of the devastation that I'm seeing are all of these trees on people's cars and homes. And luckily that did not happen to me, but it did happen to someone close to me. So I do appreciate, Madam President, you having this timely conversation because I do think, there's a lot that we just simply don't know, about the insurance world. And right now, a lot of people have been impacted. So this is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see a question. It's two questions here. And thank you all so much for just being engaged in the conversation. Curtis, you have opened up a keg of worms around this tree. So how do we know if the tree is dormant in the winter is one question. And then the follow-up question to that, not with trees, is what should we be telling our renters that have also sustained damage after the
I'm glad we got there. Yes.
But we got there. You don't really see trees falling down in the wintertime.
No.
Like that's what makes the tree fall down is the 100+ mile per hour winds, etc. Like, so you rarely ever see a tree falling in the winter. I've never been almost 30 years as an agent. I've never had this tree controversy happen in the wintertime because the weather's different. So I'm hard pressed to that. And then I want Gwen because she got real excited about the renter's insurance question. So go ahead,
Because
Gwen. Then I'll chime in with you.
thanks, Curtis. I mean, I didn't want the renters to tune out because we're talking about homeowners, but if you saw what happened in Hazelcrest with the brick wall in an apartment complex, I mean, it's most people think that landlords um, may insure the building. I mean, they insure the building, but they also think that the landlord will insure their personal belongings. So if something like that happens, the landlord is responsible. I've been in situations with clients where the landlord didn't have insurance, but even when the landlord does have insurance, your most cases, nearly 90% of the time, is not responsible for your personal belongings. And when I say they're not, there may be some times where if it's negligence on their part, but again, if it's no negligence on their part, those are your personal belongings. And remember that one key insurance part of the insurance I said that is not something you pay for, that it comes with it. If you don't have renter's insurance, one of the most heartbreaking things I saw on that video was, where am I going to go? Where am I going to live? Part of your renter's policy comes with that same endorsement on there, or that same coverage that allows you to have some coverage to live somewhere else in the event that the place that you're renting becomes uninhabitable. Not only will it pay for you to live somewhere else, it'll pay anyone. Like my sister, she lived in a complex and the roof blew off. It was one of the crazy storm. I was in my office on a crazy Saturday one day, and I heard the just boom noise, and her whole roof blew off, and she was on the top floor, and the whole place was just completely trashed. She was the only person in that building to have renters insurance. She was the only one that can get out and go somewhere. She went to my mom's house, and Country paid my mom some money for them staying there for a few days, and then they put them up in an extended place or somewhere until they were able, and they never went back. So I'm telling you how important, and renters insurance is extremely inexpensive. It covers your clothing, it covers your furniture, it covers your electronics, your kitchen items, your personal belongings. So it's really important for renters to understand their own policy and their deductibles and the coverages and what they can and cannot put on a policy. And if you live on the lower level, water backup coverage is something you can add to a renter's policy as well. Very inexpensive. So you may not own a building, but you still have financial exposure.
Yeah, agree.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing that. I see Mary, you got your hand up?
I do. Good afternoon, everybody. I have a question, and it pertains to a new homeowner. So I have a new homeowner. They closed on Monday. Storm hit on Tuesday. Understand that's not the previous owner's responsibility. But in talking with the neighbors told them that the owners that was rehabbing the house had pulled the carpet out at least on 2 occasions. So to me, that sounds like a failure to disclose that there's water that comes into the house. Is there anything that they can do or hold the previous owner accountable for that, for not disclosing? Or can they file?
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, Mary.
No, I was just saying, can they at least have a conversation with the previous owner inquiring about whether or not they fail? Of course, they're not going to tell it, but if they fail to disclose that they've had issues with water prior to selling.
From an insurance standpoint, there's nothing in our purview that
Yep.
facilitates that kind of interaction between the seller and the buyer.
Okay. Just curious.
That sounds like small claims court. um, Unfortunately. And it is unfortunate for, buyers who are new to the process. But one of the things that I do share with buyers when, they're asking about the fees that as the lender I get to talk about is, they always ask about, well, why am I paying for my homeowner's insurance a year in advance? Right. And then I'm also escrowing. And that's to make sure that they're completely covered, God forbid, knock on wood, that they do move into that property and right away there is something that catastrophically happens. So, um, okay, so I don't see any. I think we've answered all the questions in the chat. If I haven't, please let me know. It is, we have had a lively conversation. It is 1:02. So let me just pause and acknowledge and say thank you to both Gwen and Curtis I know this has to be a very busy season for both of you all. But thank you for caring about, us and our relationships and the professionals that we have the honor of being able to be in relationship with, to just come and answer some questions, because I know that we're all getting calls. You all probably are receiving more calls than we are, but educating and making sure that we have some of the answers that are needed is very important. So in the interest of time, and so that you can get back to your regularly scheduled programs, I'm going to ask you all to leave us with some parting words at 1:03, some tips, some things that we can maybe glean from and take forward as we move forward in our day today.
Well, I would say, before this week is over, pull out your insurance policy, or get a copy of your insurance policy, and have a real coverage review with your agent. But don't just ask, what am I paying for? Ask, what do I have? What don't I have? And if another storm hit tomorrow, am I financially prepared? I mean, that's what I would do right away if I were my clients, is to have a full understanding of their policies. And for those new home buyers, too, is to thoroughly investigate, or not investigate, or interview people. And really, you want a partner. Like I say, your mortgage company starts the process maybe, or your realtor starts the process maybe, and then you have other people that get involved, like inspectors. But the people that are still around when disaster strikes are your insurance agents, and your home is probably going to be the largest expense that you'll ever get, or that you'll ever pay for. Doesn't it deserve to have a thorough check of the people and the company that are going to be protecting that property for you? I think so.
Yeah, good point. I would say encourage your clients when it comes to the home to look at it as a legacy component. As Gwen said, the home is probably going to be the largest purchase you'll ever make. So from an insurance perspective, encourage them to think about different things that can allow that piece of property to be passed down generationally. So on a home policy, well, on the purchase of a home, one of the things I talk to my clients about getting, I call it mortgage protection. I actually tell them to think about a triangle, and each leg of a triangle represents a different exposure you're faced with as a homeowner. So one leg of the triangle is what happens to my home burns down to the ground, what happens to the physical structure, what happens to the contents. That's basic homeowners insurance. But you got two other components that you need to think about from a legacy perspective. Sometimes people lose their properties because their health changes. They become disabled and they can't work, thus can't pay the mortgage, probably goes into foreclosure. There's protection in place that allow you to be able to, in the event of a disability, have the monthly amount of the mortgage paid out to you as a monthly benefit to cover the mortgage while you're disabled. It can be broadened to take into consideration things like your utilities and insurance also. But from a home perspective, that's one set of protection. And then probably the one I talk to my clients a bit about the most is that in the event of me passing away, what do I want to have happen with that home? Cece, if you pass away, do you want little Amari to get the home? And if so, we can set up protection that not only can he get the home, he can get it totally mortgage free by just using life insurance to pay off the outstanding balance on the mortgage. It's a surefire way to transfer debt I'm not to transfer an asset rather from one generation to the next. So when you have conversations with your clients or you meet with your own insurance professionals, ask them about different ways from an insurance perspective to better comprehensively protect the property, but also to transfer that wealth from the next to the next generation.
Thank you all both so much. Look, like I said at the beginning, these are my rock star friends, and I'm glad to call them both friends and colleagues who, you know, are here, took out time out of their day. And so I just want to say thank you. I do have one more question before I let you guys go. So, and it's on the screen. FEMA, do you have to? I feel like I remember at some point like you had to file a claim before you could go to FEMA or something like that. Can you just tell us a little bit about FEMA, and then I promise I'm going to give everyone back their afternoon.
Yeah, so FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management, what is it, the last word or whatever that stands for. And typically when people are filing claims with FEMA, if they're looking to get restored somehow or get some type of financial assistance from FEMA, they wouldn't need to go, and they don't have the coverage on their policy. For instance, like the water backs up, and in order for you even to file any type of claim with FEMA, first the governor has to declare, you know, a natural disaster, which I know that Governor Pritzker has done that. And then typically that process, the way it goes is that, and I don't know it step by step, but I know that you have to file that claim with them. But first you have to, sometimes they'll say you have to file a claim with your insurance company, get the claim denied, and then take the denial letter and present it to them and fill out the whatever paperwork. The problem with in Illinois is that there's simply the money is not coming in the way that it should. And I think that people don't understand that. And I'm not trying to throw politics into this, but there's a real problem with the state of Illinois not receiving funds from FEMA. And there's funds there for disasters like this, but those funds are being held up. So there are a lot of people that are frustrated. They're frustrated with the insurance companies. They're frustrated with FEMA. But that money is not coming in through FEMA unless, one, they did not have the coverage already on their policy, but two, also if the funds are not being distributed to the state. So
Thank you so much for that. All right, good people. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining the Dearborn Realtist Board. I got to shout out our past president. I see Ron Branch came in the room as well. I see a few of our folks from our Northwest Indiana chapter, Rain. So thank you all for joining us. And to all of our guests that were here today, I just want to thank you for sharing a little bit of your time with us. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your time. So have a great rest of your day. Please reach out to your insurance agent, and then we look forward to talking with you all soon. Bye-bye.
thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Dearborn.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Dearborn.